Hey everyone, this is Keith Schleicher from Gaming Trend and Tabletop Throwdown, and I'm sitting here with Jeff Sidek, who recently had a very successful Kickstarter campaign with the second edition of Battlestations, and it's a game that has been out for a while, but it hasn't gotten a lot of talk about it, but until I think the second edition was released. But I wanted to get a little bit more information about the game, and he is here with a prototype, and so we're going to find out more about the game. So Jeff, thank you for taking the time to show this to me, and tell me more about how Battlestation works.
I love talking about Battlestations. Okay, so the idea here is that each of the players is going to be working collectively as a crew aboard Starship. And the Starship is moving on the hex map simultaneously. One of the players plays the enemy player, and he's going to be controlling an enemy ship, or could be a space monster, could be a navigation hazard, any kind of thing that could happen in an episode of a science fiction sort of fantasy series. So your ship actually is composed of these modules arranged, and your engines produce power, your helm lets you turn the ship, life support lets you support crew on the ship, your guns are for shooting at the enemy, and missile base for firing missiles, hyperdrive for warping in and out, your teleporter to teleport over to the enemy ship, because if you wanted to send somebody over to the enemy ship, you're going to be using your science skill and using the teleporter and sending somebody over to the enemy ship. And then you'd roll dice to see where they show up. And of course that's going to be based on where the ship is facing. So we'd be coming in from the sides, we'd be coming in from the port side on that ship. And then once you're on the ship, and this is really where the game shines, is that you've got simultaneous ship-to-ship and boarding action. So this guy's got to decide, hey, am I going to return fire and shoot at that ship, or am I going to get my blast pistol in one of my infinite hands and come around the corner and shoot at this bot that just came over? So it's really about making possible any kind of science fiction mission that you want. It's like a role-playing game because you get characters that continue from mission to mission. They go up and they gain in abilities and whatnot, and the game scales. The difficulty of the missions is all based on the ranks of the characters, so it'll always feel like you're right on the edge of your seat. But it's also like a board game because there's very specific mission difficulties, mission parameters where what you're trying to accomplish, and it all takes place in phases and rounds. So it's a structured system, and it creates this adventure that happens, and it's alive while it's happening.
So, does it come with preset scenarios?
There, in the basic box game is going to come with a 32-page book that includes, I think it's 8 scenarios that sort of bring you up to speed, teaching the game as you go along. My great friend Neil Softy gave me the idea to do that. And then the main game, 300-page book, includes over 50, I think it might be 100 scenarios, which 30 of them were inspired by various famous game designers, and the rest of them are sort of your stock and standard, smash this ship or go aboard and get that, or there's some space alien you got to destroy, or something you got to gather data off of something, or something's gone missing. So it's really got a lot of replayability.
So how do players make decisions? Is there a captain who kind of decides where to go and what to do, and then everyone kind of has their own specialty, or does everyone kind of decide to do their own thing depending on what their goal is?
Well, it's a cooperative game, and so everybody's got their own character, and you decide as a group what to do, and usually the group will have suggestions for you, but you get to do your own thing. And so one thing I have a peeve against cooperative games, because people have a tendency to sort of get bullied into doing stuff. But in this game, because you're in control of your own character, you can say, you know what, as much as you want me to go shoot that guy, I'm going to launch a missile right now. We've got to launch more missiles. And the group works together to decide what's really going to work best for the group.
So what kind of stats do you have in your character?
You can be, there are 5 skills in the game: athletics, combat, engineering, piloting, and science. And those last 4 are the professions. So if you're a pilot, you're going to get a reroll on all your piloting checks. And if you're an engineer, you get a reroll on your engineering checks. Anybody can do anything. If a shot came through and broke our helmet and actually killed our
pilot, so he's dead. Our Marine can come up here, and he's got to make an engineering check to repair the helm, and then he might use his engineering skill to repair it, but his piloting skill is 0. So he's going to be rolling 2 dice and adding nothing to that. That's probably going to be enough to turn a small ship going at a slow rate of speed. But the idea is that anybody can do anything. Or, let's say another scenario, this pilot's here in the helm and he says, you know what, I've got a great piloting skill and I'm going to fly the ship, and all of a sudden some enemy teleports over or arrives by boarding missile. Now that pilot all of a sudden just realizes that he's got to do some shooting. He's got to do some hand-to-hand combat, fire his blast pistol.
Yeah, and the design here, while you have the humanoid, everything else looks very alien.
That's one thing that I really like is different aliens. Aliens that don't look like some guy with a different thing slapped onto his forehead. These things are really different. The idea is what would life look like if it evolved somewhere else entirely, and it doesn't look like people.
So are the configurations of the main ship going to be the same, or do you have different configurations?
There's the ship size is based on the total number of modules, and you can see this sort of loose kind of rocket format is a human-sized 3 ship. If it gets bigger, if you say we want a larger ship, then you're going to be adding some more modules to it, and suddenly this ship now it's moving up to becoming a size 4 ship. And so because we've got a size 4 ship, we're going to have
more life support.
So we can have 4 more characters on board. And if you don't have enough players for that, then you get to add bots to the crew to fill out those empty life support spots. So you can see this is still kind of the same shape, but it's larger. And then each type of ship has its own benefit. Human ships are better to pilot. Canosian ships have more shields. The silicoid ships are sturdier, so it goes through, carries a theme throughout each species, and there are, I think, 17 or 18 different ship configuration classes, with each of those has 5 or 6 sizes.
So if someone comes into a campaign kind of later because you have a group of friends and someone decides to join in, because it's a cooperative game, is it easier for them to kind of join in? Is there a way to kind of get them up to speed?
No, this is a terrible game. If you didn't get in on the ground floor, you should just shut up and go home. No, actually quite the opposite. That as characters go up in rank, they get more goodies and special abilities, but sort of your base hit points start around 10 or so, and you add +1 per level. So a rank 5 guy is going to be half again as sturdy, but not just all powerful compared to the earlier guys. So it really is great to bring in new players and get fresh eyes to a problem. And even if your character isn't really strong in the beginning, your character is going to have, or as a player, you're going to have insight as to what to do in the mission. Hey, wait a minute. Our cannons don't seem to be working on this thing. Maybe we should do some science checks to figure out how we're going to get around this problem. And so it's really more about the game than about the game.
Cool. So you have had a successful Kickstarter. When are you looking at, I know this is, crystal ball type of stuff. When are you looking at getting this into the hands of the players?
We are still on schedule for a January delivery.
January of next year.
Yep, January of next year.
I mean, there's a ton of pieces. There's a ton of dice rolling. It looks like there's some card decks and other things, so there's a lot to it going on. But no, this looks like fantastic and like a great way to relive some of your favorite science fiction games.
Absolutely, it really is. The idea here is that you get to just open up the book, find a mission you like, and play. That you don't have to spend a whole lot of time preparing an adventure. You just open it up and go.
And with 30 missions, 50 missions, a 300-page book that has all those missions in it, there's plenty of replayability to that.
Yeah, not only that, but in the testing of the missions, I have to run them over and over again to make sure I get them right. And so they're replayable, because if there's a mission where you're trying to destroy tanker freighters, and then you try to play it again, you just play it again, and it's not boring at all.
Right.
So really 100 missions that you can play 10 times each. And the other thing I find is people a lot of times will add their own special thing to a mission. That some people will say, yeah, I ran that mission, but I added this or that. So it's fun to tweak it.
Cool. And will you have a way to like post suggestions on a message board or anything?
Yeah, there's at GorillaBoardGames.com. We have forums there.
Cool.
And of course the Battlestations Yahoo group.
Oh, okay. Great. Oh, this looks good. Thank you so much for showing it off to me.
Thank you, Keith.